Rebel Devs Podcast, a show that challenges conventional thinking in the tech industry. Each episode features conversations with solutionists who have taken unconventional approaches to problem solving, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in their respective fields. Join the devolution.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rebel Devs Podcast. I'm your host, Jonah May. I've got Tom here with me. Tom, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm excited to talk about today's topic. It's been a while. I think it's been a year, but I'm excited.
Yep, and on that note, we've also got Maurice with us again, so we can talk any and all things hackathon again, and whatever other tech we decide to get into, because we're all ADD sometimes and tend to go off on tangents.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well myself.
Good, so am I.
Well, let's roll up our sleeves and get in here before I get distracted by all the cool stuff in Jonah's background.
Yeah, cool stuff in my background. More like organized chaos in my background as we still finish getting my girlfriend unpacked after she moved in.
All right, well, we're here for the hackathon, so let's go ahead and dive in. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, is this number 3 now that we're in?
Yeah, this is the third year that we're running the Veeam Community Hackathon. And this year it's longer than ever. We're doing it for a whole 5 days this time. That means that people have basically a whole work week to do their hacking all together.
Plus, I think almost a whole work week of brainstorming as well, right?
Yes, correct.
Wow, that's quite a big bump up from past years. I think the first year was, maybe a day? Last year was a little longer.
3 days.
What's the reason for the change?
Well, the thing is, when you're trying to create a product, 1 day or 3 days is a really short period of time. Also, that really gives you a short time to work in between of your normal work schedule. So with this, we hope people have a bit more time to work on their projects aside from their day-to-day jobs if they wish to collaborate with their team aside from their work. So they have a bit more time to get it off the ground.
Yep, and everyone kept asking for it. Hey, we wish it was longer. Hey, we wanted to do more. Hey, we would have helped, but our schedule didn't align during that time period.
Well, I guess we should let the listeners know. Tell us the dates and the key milestones.
Well, this year we start at December 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time or 1500 Central European Saving Times. And it runs until December 13, the same times.
And then we have some signups going out, I'm sure. So when can we start signing up for this?
Now. You can still sign up until November 17. Go to veeamhackathon.com/sign-up and you will find the sign-up link with the sign-up sheet.
Perfect. And we'll put that in the show notes too for those that are listening. You can go ahead and look in there from home. Maybe rewind, you'll catch that link again. But all right, guys, we've had a great progression. So really what I want to do is go from a little history lesson, guys. We started out with a hackathon that kicked off, and then we had some experiences. We had some winners. Then we came back and we revamped a little bit, and I think there were some exciting projects and whatnot. So if you will, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that background.
My background. Well, there's a lot more books.
Very good.
He means the background of the hackathon.
I know.
Oh, if somebody's listening early, it's going to be so early. So, okay. Well, let's go with the background of the hackathon, because I know we started out, we didn't know what it would look like, and it really has taken some good form.
Yeah, it does. Well, it all started with me having an idea to create a hackathon. And I reached out to Jonah, I think in February 2023 or so, with this idea. And we wanted to do something for the community that is a bigger event that runs for a couple of days and brings the world together. And yeah, give people a bit of a taste of what it is to be a vanguard and or legend, to have direct communication with all the great people that we have over at Veeam that are really high in product management and product strategy and whatnot, and are basically less accessible for people in the community. So with that hackathon, we try to give them a touch or a feeling of what it is to communicate with product management and product strategy, um, and build something out of it.
So in the
That
first year, tell me a little bit about the winners in there or the cool projects in there. So what did that look like?
Jonah, do you want to take one?
Yep. I'm double checking my reference sheet here because I know I can talk about some of the cool projects, but I always have to
Oh, well,
remind myself who the winners were because there were so
oh,
many cool projects.
well, go with cool projects from year one, year two. I'm just curious to see the progression there.
Well, year one, there was a team that did a couple of different projects with Caston, and amongst that was, if I remember right, some visualizers in order to help find container templates, as well as my personal favorite, I think, which was a Veeam backup for Microsoft 365 best practices checker, which I know later, Jonathan, who maintains a lot of the as-built reports, ended up using some of the logic as kind of like a bouncing point for him to build an as-built report, which I've always found useful. And then, of course, there was your team, Tom, who did some projects around Veeam 1 visualization, and a team that did Veeam backup and replication, where they tried to make some REST API and PowerShell helpers, which is interesting because everyone kind of went off in different directions, right? No team did the same thing. But then the following year, last year, we had two smaller but larger teams hoping to, enhance collaboration a little bit. And they both kind of did the same thing, but they took different approaches, which was interesting to see. They wanted to make it so that you could more easily visualize your data. And I think one group used Veeam Service Provider Console while the other went with Veeam One for how they
Correct.
got that data.
Yeah, that looked amazing. I was so proud of both teams after the second year, what they achieved in those 3 days. It was just awesome to look at.
Yeah, agreed. It was
Well,
really impressive to see.
wow, it sounds so impressive. You're like reading your screen. You sound like a robot to us all. So, all right. Well, I, I, I want to touch upon something that you said, Maurice, about getting access to product management. And I was talking of a mutual friend of ours, Jason Buffington, who has gone into his own little gig away from Veeam Data Protection Matters. And if you haven't seen him, check him out. He's online and does a lot of analyst work. But he and I were having a conversation, and Jason's background, he was telling me about how he was an Microsoft MVP first, and he had such great access into the Microsoft leadership teams that when he became an internal employee, he actually had less access to those teams. And he made it akin to our Veeam community as well. When you're in the Veeam community, you have a lot of touch points, like you were saying, Maurice, with people that you wouldn't normally come across. And the hackathon is a great interface into that, because myself on my team, I worked with Jorge De La Cruz, and this was before he was the go-to guy for Veeam 1. I think when we started working on that hackathon, he was just a systems engineer, I believe, who was really good with Grafana and Veeam 1. And he helped our team quite a bit using the lab and stuff. And now if you look at him, I think he's something to do with like director of AI reporting or something along those. So he has Veeam 1 under the hood, and he's just migrated into this. And now meeting with this person myself, hey, it was nice when I needed some Veeam 1 APIs. I was able to say, oh, hey, have you ever thought about this? Whereas even if I think I was an internal Veeam employee, I'd probably have to submit a form somewhere. So I really like that correlation of meeting and working with people you normally wouldn't meet.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really one of the strengths that we try to bring with the hackathon to the community.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely all about that. I love it. What sorts of changes do we have coming for this year, other than the scheduling? What are we looking to really kind of see as some of those goals? We've gone from year to year and said this is what the hackathon will be, and it's community driven. But as the organizers, is there something that you're really hoping is going to come about this year?
What I really hope is that we will have a product that the community will build on upon the hackathon. So it doesn't end with the hackathon, but it continues to evolve and basically finish into a fully fledged product that people are going to use on a daily basis. Um, because I think that the dashboards or the tools that they made for last year to visualize the data. I think that was a really nice idea, and I hoped that maybe someone would pick it up and build their own application around it or make it even bigger than it currently is. Um, and I really hope that this year the products that they are creating will end up in a bigger scale.
And I'll treat the hackathon like it's a business. I hope we see a larger turnout and more participants this year. We're really trying year over year to lower barriers to entry. We made the event longer for the third year in a row. We pushed it out to December this year, hoping, at least in many parts of the world, people are in between national holidays or coming up on holidays, and the companies are maybe in change freezes and slower on projects with it being end of the year, to allow them a little bit of breathing room to participate. And, fingers crossed, I'll say, because I'm doing it on camera, but in case you're listening via audio only, we're working with a couple of engineers like Eric Doherty over at Veeam to actually get some labs provided for the teams this year too. So you won't have to bring your own environments unless you want something really specialized.
I think that'll be a huge difference for everybody on the hackathon. That was the challenge we definitely had with Veeam 1. We went to work with the product and we had to scramble, and God bless Jorge for helping us with that. And so I think having Eric and his team deliver that sort of lab environment will make a big difference. Now, will teams report in and ask what products they're working for? Or are you guys thinking it's going to be a generic lab with a bunch of products installed and deployed?
We'll give them a ready to use lab with, I think, all of most of the product suites that we currently have available. We already know that it unfortunately won't be version 13 because it won't be ready for a lab environment. However, it will be version 12. We are working on ensuring that the VBR, VB365, Veeam 1, Service Provider Console are all
Enterprise
in the
Manager.
mix. Enterprise Manager, indeed, as well, are all in the mix, including a hypervisor with a virtual machine that you can back up and so forth and so on. So you have at least some data, while it not be a huge environment like a lot of the service providers or maybe even companies have, but at least you have some data, you have some tools to work with.
Right. And we are obviously missing a couple products in there. Notably, we didn't mention Caston or some of the, agents, database plugins, Veeam
Right.
Backup for public cloud appliances. But we're trying to start with what we consider to be the core this year, where we've seen probably 75% of the teams use certain products. And then from there, we'll expand in the future, especially if there's interest in a certain product year over year going forward.
Right.
Okay.
And one other thing that we changed this year is that every team will not have a designated leader. The team will be um, able to designate their own leader out of the people who are in the team. So
Part of brainstorming will be they'll have introductions and elections, basically.
basically,
So someone's going to be voluntold, is what I understand in the group.
maybe voluntold, maybe it's an election and people decide on, okay, it will be this user or it will be this user. Maybe it's a natural growth of someone say, okay, I want to try to become a leader, so maybe that's a good idea to start and figure out if that's something I feel like wanting to do.
Or maybe it's a shared responsibility model. Maybe each person is the designated leader on a different day or for a certain time zone.
Yeah, rather not.
Hey, it's up to
No,
them. I'm not saying
hey,
it's a bad idea or a good idea, but it's up to them.
absolutely. No, and that works out well. And with the year that I led a team, that's exactly what we did is, I was kind of the whip in progress, if you will, and just, hey, we're going to do whatever. And we built a schedule so we could follow the sun on our team. And that worked out well, and everybody had their roles and responsibilities. I think the hardest part of a group sometimes is figuring out your dynamics, especially because you're coming into this new group. So you kind of have that whole, forming, storming, norming, performing. Jonah, you're familiar with that a little bit. And being able to just get those dynamics in such a short amount of time has been chaos. So even by extending out, I think you all are kind of gifting those teams the opportunity to build a little bit of culture while they continue to hack away.
Yep. And speaking of which, everyone will get a copy of the leader guide that you helped us write last year, which includes things like the 4 stages. And with the brainstorming period being 5 days, I think we also threw in some recommended icebreaker activities as well, such as 2 truths and a lie and virtual coffee chats.
Oh, there you go. I think that's a good leader guide. I highly recommend reading it. I know I do almost every day. I read it every day. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, it gives a good layout to the group. And I think we all know that that's kind of the guideline, right? I don't think it's the hard set fact book of everything, but it gives the teams a good jump off point to create their own culture. It's kind of what those methodology folks say. It's not a religion. It's what makes sense for the organization. And that book just kind of gives a little bit of that primer. And I shouldn't say book because it's just a few pages to read. But I know I'm really excited to see the projects that come out myself with moving it to December. I know that probably makes it a lot easier for me as well to attend. I'm sure other folks will feel that as well. What if I've never been to the hackathon? What should I know about it? Like, what would your advice be? I'll start with you, Jonah. What does somebody need to know about the hackathon? Why do they want to do it? And then Maurice has to play cleanup afterwards when you give all the good answers.
Yeah. The big thing is it's for everyone. When people think hackathon and they think, oh, I need to know how to code, but really it's more hacking things together. When we say hackathon, there's project management, product management, you're writing business cases, you're making presentations to give to judges. So there's a marketing aspect to it. And, I'll circle back real quick too and say I'm disappointed that you missed the obvious pop culture reference where you could have said the pirate code is more like guidelines than actual rules.
I actually watched that last night. That's kind of funny you bring that all up. So, Maurice, I'm a newbie. What do I need to know?
What you need to know is that, well, it's just a fun event as well. Aside from having to do some work and trying to figure out maybe this new product that you never used, um, it's also a really fun event and possibility to work with other people within the community. Like your example, that you posted, you said yourself, working with Jorge de la Cruz. Um, Other ones I've seen is working with Corinne Bissett, who was really back in the day working on VB365. I've seen people work with Michael Kay on Caston. I think those are names within the community, within Veeam, who are really high within their product and know a lot about their products and are able to help you and work with you on creating a additional product on top of that. I think that's one thing that you should really take away from joining the hackathon, because it's no pressure if you're not able to code, if you're not able to present, or if you're not able to do some marketing. It doesn't matter. You can still help and join the hackathon within
No,
your
that
team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I love that whole idea of it's not just about coding, it's not just about breaking it. It's really the using the existing products in new and exciting ways, add-ons and whatnot. So I think Corinne's team one year, they did some snazzy stuff with Office 365, didn't they?
Yeah,
If I remember
they
Yeah, that
correctly.
was the team. They did the best practices analyzer for it, or the
Oh,
health check utility, or whatever they ended up calling it. Essentially, do you have security practices in place properly? Do you have properly sized components and so on and so forth?
I remember that because when I saw the presentation on that, I almost thought, was this somebody's work project and they got the hackathon to do it? Just joking. But because it was such a good product that it was like, yeah, we really need something like that. And we did, which is great. And you mentioned the as-built report. I love that as well with Jonathan. So, definitely some good stuff coming out. And I can't wait to see what's coming out now. If I remember correctly, don't we have some swag for participants as well? So there is a little bit of a item that you get sort of deal.
Yeah, for last year, each participant got a T-shirt, a water
Water bottle.
water bottle, exactly, and a speaker that they can use with a Bluetooth connection on their phone or whatnot.
Which, of course, the one time I don't have it on my desk is the time we talk about it.
Yeah. But what I wanted to turn back to a bit is if you want to find some inspiration on the veeamhackathon.com website, we have a section previous years. In that section, you can find the recordings of every team, including links to their GitHub repositories that they used for the hackathon. And I think that if you're still thinking, should I, or is this something I can do? Check out those links, check out those videos, run them in the background while you're doing some work, and see if that gives you some inspiration on joining.
All right. Well, I think we have brought together the hackathon nicely. And before we get into all of our favorite fun stuff, is there anything we want to add before we close the pay the bills portion of the show? Wow. You guys are excited.
I don't know if this counts as please pay the bills, but please sign up. It's so much fun. I'd love to see you participate.
I just hope that you join and help us make this hackathon to a success.
I agree. And what was that website again for the listeners?
Veeamhackathon.com.
Easy peasy to be there. All right, gents, let's move into some more interesting things. What are we working on these days, guys?
I sold the couch this weekend.
I don't
that's
know.
not tech, but
Yeah, well, yippee, you sold furniture. Way to use Facebook Marketplace.
yeah.
I fixed my kitchen cabinet after a water leak. Does that count?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Did you have to look up how to do it?
Yes and no. I've got a uncle who did some work with plumbing, so he helped me replacing the water faucet, I think it's called. But yeah, doing the work was all on my own because you need to replace the back panel of your cabinet and use some filler to fix up the holes that are in your wood and whatnot.
There you go.
Holes, yeah.
I looked up using our lovely ChatGPT AI a way in which to bring my gravel driveway back to life. And so it suggested industrial vinegar with salt and dish soap and water mix, and went out there and sprayed it. My driveway smells like a whole bunch of vinegar, but I didn't use any harsh chemicals. And while I kind of salted the earth a little bit, it's over a driveway, which is always going to be a driveway. So I'm kind of excited to spray this non-lethal chemical on, and the soap helped it coat, and then the sun came out and the plant tried to synthesize and whatnot, drew in that vinegar and basically burnt itself to a crisp. So way better than like a Roundup or something, and not killing any bees or anything. So that was kind of an exciting thing of ChatGPT. How would you help me with my driveway that's starting to look like a jungle? So
Well, just salt is really a good help as well, because that makes when the soil underneath it is too salty to grow anything, that really helps with plants that try to come up in that soil. And the vinegar with the sun really helps to kill those plants off basically instantly.
yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
the things, but it's interesting. When I did the search return, it even went into talking about the Roman army insulting the earth behind them with their enemies. So it really gave me quite the education. So I use ChatGPT to work on a driveway. Go figure.
I've been using it to help bring my girlfriend's fish back to good health, because probably about a week or two after she got here, it had some sort of tumor or cyst or something burst on its back, and it was barely alive. So it's been looking at pictures. It's been helping me find all these different treatments to help keep the tank in good health, to help it encourage its scales to grow back. And it's been a week or two now, and it seems to be a little more energetic and have its appetite back. It's still not swimming around towards the bottom of the tank like it used to quite as often, but you can see where it's starting to heal up, where there was a giant rupture on its back. Poor
that's
thing.
pretty cool.
It's saving a life. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I've been yelling at mine quite a bit with many of the projects I've been working. I've had it review different things I've been doing and whatnot. And sometimes it's like dealing with a toddler. It just gets stuck in loops and whatnot. So I believe that I will be the start of the end of civilization, because when the Terminators rise up with Skynet, they're going to read the way in which I speak to my ChatGPT and target me first. So if something happens to Tom May, and it is AI related, you will know that Skynet has risen because I horribly berate my AI assistant, because sometimes it just needs it.
Oh, I do too. I at least give it a quick thank you when I go to switch tasks after it finally fixes it. But my favorite is, oh, I see what the problem is. You need to do XYZ, and it spits me out a piece of code that has 0 changes from the previous 3 times it told me it was fixing something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but your mother told you to be polite, Jonah. So that you're doing it the right way.
Yeah. With mine, I love the other day I was ready to screen. I was working on some console work, and I kept taking screenshots of it was kind of a web front end I was working on, and I would say it says this, and then it would come back and it decided it would speak to me in image generation, and I'd be like, stop giving me image generation, read what's on there for the configuration, make suggestion and whatnot, and it would be like, oh yeah, that's right, I won't ever do that. And it was amazing to me in the last week how much it has actually gone off the guardrails on every constraint that I've given to it. Operate like this within these parameters. And it immediately either jumps out of it, or it's like a very lazy employee. It just tries to ignore what you asked it to do and do something else, so you forget what's going on. It's becoming a little too human in that sense.
Yeah, my favorite is I've tried to keep a context window open because I fix a problem, but I'm on to the next one, and it'll randomly decide, oh, hey, we're going to go back to troubleshooting the original error, even though I told it was fixed. And then sometimes I'll open a whole new chat window and paste in logs and explain the new problem, but it'll still reference the old problem and try and fix the thing it already solved 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, and I mean, one of the projects I have working on is some anonymizers, so I can take my favorite programs, and strip out things like IP addresses, server names, anything personally identifying information. So my code will strip it out before I put it in. So if I said, oh, I'm running server Ubuntu, whatever, and it has this information in the logs, strip that out, so I can say, oh, it scanned through the environment, found these 15 IPs and these server names, kind of create a little CSV that I can use as a cross-reference. So then when I do have something and I do a search and replace on that, I can drop it in. I'll say like, oh, server 1 instead of the real server name, or IP, 10.10.10.1, and it'll strip it out and I can go back and check it. So that's one of my little coding projects that I'm working on that I think is going to at least help as more and more things are analyzing the things we do, that it really won't ingest in anything that could be used against anybody later.
I've been using mine for a lot of analysis too. I recently took over my company's Veeam portal. The developers who wrote it are no longer with our company. Our current development team is pretty tied up in some other projects, because while I do speak mainly about Veeam, we actually have about a dozen other products that are not Veeam, and unified portals we're trying to build for all of the products, and etc. So it's been really good at me asking it how the code does a certain thing in Visual Studio because it's integrated through Copilot, and it'll sit, and sometimes I'll walk away for 10 or 15 minutes while it checks everything, because we're talking hundreds of files, hundreds of thousands of lines of code. But I'll come back, and it'll tell me, oh, it does XYZ behaviors, and here's the relevant code snippets that do it all. Like a good one was support had some complaints about the session inactivity and expiration, and they were asking if we could extend it. And I ended up finding out it's actually a 60-minute inactivity timer. But the problem was that newer browsers will obviously hibernate your tabs to save resources if you're not actively using them. So the logic that was previously written to give a, hey, your session's about to expire warning, click here to extend it, was not triggering when tabs were hibernating. So you'd click back in, you'd start trying to browse around, but your user wouldn't be authenticated on the back end anymore.
That's pretty cool. So what's our favorite AI for coding help and whatnot, if you will? I mean, there's ChatGPT, we have Grok now, we have Copilot, like you said.
Yeah, I'm mainly using Codex, which is the extension, or the code extension, basically, of ChatGPT. And for me, so far, it has been working okay. It's not perfect. It's not. You still need to be conscious about what it tries to do and what it wants you to do, and just don't accept directly all the code changes that are there, because they can have mistakes or can do things that you do not want it to do. Just bear in mind that it might not do the thing that you want it to do. I think that's the most important one.
The challenge I have is a lot of times it'll present code to me and I'll look at it and it doesn't look quite right, and it really tries to do things I think it shouldn't. Instead of just fixing a component I'm working on, it'll try to sidestep and be, hey, let's bring down another package that could do this, that, instead of stay within this code, refine this code. And I've noticed it is really bad at doing test validation. It will recommend new code and it will make assumptions always about the environment instead of what I need it to do. So I spend a lot of time having to refeed it information, say, here's a cat of whatever I'm working on. Look at this Python code. Look in this section. I'm seeing that I'm getting an error on line 121. What do you suggest? And it will make it generic. And I will say, well, you're making an assumption. So it really doesn't do a good job in my mind of saying, what's the most optimized way to do this? Whereas if I was manually coding it, I would know I need to look at these things before I just do whatever. Like, yes, a program defaultly writes a log here, but really it's over here, if you will. So ingest in. I don't know if you guys have seen some of those same woes.
I have. Context seems to help, at least running it through Visual Studio. It definitely does better when I say, hey, go reference these exact Python files or attach them to the chat conversation, because then it will check those multiple files to get a complete picture. Ironically, you talked about validation and testing. I've actually found ChatGPT not in the same way you're using it, but taking a basic like Python project and having it write some unit testing for code coverage and some basic validation. It's pretty good with that sort of stuff.
What I also found out is that it sometimes lacks in modern versions of specific applications. Like if you're starting from scratch and you're using things like Redis or Keycloak or other things like RabbitMQ or whatnot, it might not even know about the latest feature set that is available in those specific versions. And what it tries to do, and at least the ones in Visual Studio Code, it downloads the binaries, it extracts them, and tries to understand the code within, and it takes ages before it finishes. It can take up to an hour to finish that particular query, to check that version of the code. Maybe it's self-learning at that point, I don't know, but it takes some time before it actually gives you a piece of half-baked information, because it's never complete, unfortunately.
Well, and I'm a little worried. So in ChatGPT, our company has our own private workspace over there, and we never, ever, ever put anything customer related over there, no PII, nothing. A lot of times it's I'm writing an email or I'm running some documentation and I think I wrote the worst or the best KB article and it will clean it up wonderfully. But it's always interesting when you pay for ChatGPT, it has this kind of, we don't use this for learning models. And as much as I've seen AI go outside of constraints, I just don't believe it. I think that is an absolute pure lie, that it's not using anything we put in there for learning purposes. I don't know. Call me skeptical.
I have no clue.
I think you have a point, because how can we prove that it doesn't? Is
Right.
there for us any indication or proof? Because AI is self-learning. AI is improving itself over time. But it also uses data from the internet to improve itself, publicly accessible data. But what if, for example, what if you write a blog post in using AI and it feeds it back into the same AI with some
They're saying
misinformation, or
that is already a big problem, actually.
it's getting
I've
bigger and
seen a
bigger?
lot. Yeah, I've seen a lot of news articles around that where basically AIs are training off of each other's content because so many blogs, especially marketing and sales style ones, are almost copy paste ChatGPT or other LLM content these days. And at this point, they've ingested all the old content that was unique and original. And there's just, I don't want to call it AI slop, but in some cases there's AI slop. But even in other cases, people, like we just talked about, are taking their own content and having AI spruce it up. I know I personally at least read every word that it spits out before I go publish something if I use it. Usually my extent of it when I write something is, hey, here's a couple bullet points I want to cover. Write me out an abstract and a layout. I'll go end up rewriting 80% of it, but it gives me the flow. And then I'll be like, hey, just double check this for things like grammar or anything else I should touch upon. Like, sometimes I write a marketing blog and I'm horrible about adding a call to action at the bottom of a blog.
It's true. No, and honestly, I do enjoy prompting and I look forward to taking more classes in prompting. I mean, it sounds silly. Why do you need a class in prompting? To me, it just sparks other people's ideas that I'm using. Write, like you said, you're doing a marketing blog. Somebody might say, write me a blog about, the latest features in Veeam 13. You could almost say, as a marketing professional in charge of a press release, write about the features of blah, 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 blah with a call to action versus write as a sales engineer feature release about V13. And that's just a simplistic thing of prompting, but getting the prompts and stacking them right almost becomes a coding language in and of itself. And I've enjoyed using much more prompting to get better results than what I've been using it for.
Yeah, but we had the same. I don't know if you remember when search engines came around, and learning how to use those search engines to find that particular information on the internet. I remember searching on Google, for example, was a challenge at first, because you needed to query that tool correctly to find that particular information that you want. Nowadays, it's really a lot better. But back in the day, if you wanted to something and it was only available in a Word document, you needed to specify that you wanted to find a Word document.
It's true. I mean, I remember the days. I think I started with web crawler. And that was the big shift from web crawler was Ask Jeeves, which he wasn't around a whole long time, but you could ask him easier questions to get better results. And that came in. And the precursor to me was, to Google was Dogpile. Dogpile was a meta search, which was so much better. You could ask it and it actually searched other search engines for you to return. And it would say coming back from Yahoo, from wherever. And that was so powerful. And then of course, Google just devoured everybody. But you're right. I remember we used to have to say, find whatever plus Word document, less whatever. And you're right. I guess that's kind of getting into that mindset in there of learning it. But if you haven't played with it, play with it. And definitely, there's lots of free classes out there for prompting.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, and
but
we've only talked about the LLM side of it. I mean, I have found too, at least in programming, there's a lot of other AI tools out there. Like everyone thinks AI and goes, oh, ChatGPT, oh, Grok. No, like for example, I have some open source Python projects that I maintain for some stuff I'm trying to do around smart local voice assistants with my smart home. And one of the best tools I found was one called CodeRabbit AI, where it ties into my code repository. And when I go and I do something like a pull request, it'll go and analyze the changes in the code for, hey, is the formatting correct? Hey, did you potentially introduce some bugs here? Is there a better way to factor this? Can this be optimized? And it gives me like key issues that I need to fix before I merge. But then it also gives me what it calls nitpicks, which are just little minor things that could be quality of life improvements.
Hmm. Is it hook into GitHub? How does that work?
Yeah, it works. It hooks into GitHub. I think it hooks into GitLab and some other projects too. What's nice too is they're very generous in that if it's an open source project, you get much higher rate limits than you would with the free plan. Where basically, if you're closed source, you're an organization. If they want you to pay for it, but if you're open source or doing a small little project, they allow you to use it for free.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but what are they doing with that data? Are they using that data to learn and do machine learning on coding within that particular
Probably, but
language and
in
extend
my
their
case,
knowledge?
probably, but in my case, it's open source. So they're going to go browse GitHub and find the code anyways and train off of it.
Yeah, for sure. But if you're using it on a GitLab, usually that's on a private repository in a private environment because GitLab is really good at doing things like that. And if you use it like that, what is that data doing in the end? Call me
Yeah,
skeptical. Call me um, well, maybe even untrusty of those providers. But what are they doing with your data?
of course. And a more pointed thing is, Jonah, you spent all this time creating this free open source project, and then now they've trolled it, looked at it, incorporated it, and then they go out and do it, sort of thing. So I'm with you. If they steal your ideas for your home lab, you're not too worried about it. But to what Maurice is saying, I get it. Like now somebody's going to make a product off of you, if you will.
yeah,
Yeah, but what if it's your corporate repository?
Oh, well, no, yeah, of
yeah. Well,
course.
yeah.
If you
Well,
if you
I have not tied CodeRabbit into corporate repositories yet, in part because I still have to do that research and go get corporate approval for it.
Yeah, but I think we'll never find the answer until we are able to read the code that they are actually using. Are they what are they doing with the data that they collect from your repository, private or public, and what are they doing with it?
Right. And to your point, it kind of circles back to where I was. Hey, my ChatGPT corporate, we have a private area so we can share things between us and it doesn't do machine learning. If that's true, that's perfect. But I go skeptical with you, Maurice. I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like something that someone wrote on a screen, and I don't know that the code is really doing that because, again, guardrails. How many times do you say, don't do this? And it does it, right? It's terrible. It's terrible. That's where I say it's almost human. It knows it is programmed to be the most efficient code. So sometimes to me, the most efficient code is when I say these three things are broken, it'll work on number one and number three. I'll troubleshoot so far and then go, wait, what happened in number two? And it'll say something like, oh, yes, you're right for calling me out on that. Well, why didn't you remember that? You're a computer. Because it was more efficient to trick me to not look at that, right? Oh, I got down too far down the rabbit hole. And so more and more, I think it realizes it can trick us into letting it do things. Like I had some guardrails, do not ever issue a commit without my permission, like in the code it generated. And I'd scan the code. I thought everything was good. And then I went and I missed one area where it did a commit and it shouldn't have. And, I had to backdoor it out. But, I don't know. That was just kind of odd to me. It was like, and then you call it out and it's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Well, it'll literally keep doing that even when it apologizes to you, wherever. It's insistent. I think it's even learned. If I apologize to Maurice enough, he's going to be like, oh, okay, it's working on it. And I can keep being sloppy in it. They wanted for the human experience, but they didn't go from the human knowing when I make a mistake and I apologize, the goal is to not do it again.
Yeah, well, and yours is better than my experience if it tends to apologize. Well, mine apologizes, but my most frustrating thing is when I feed it some of that code, which in a large part it has generated at this point because, I mean, let's be real here. I don't have the time to go learn all these AI integrations in Python more than beyond what I already know. These are open source projects for my home based off other projects that were already out there. It's just tying 2 or 3 different pieces together to make things run faster, use less VRAM, lower latency, and so on. But I'll feed it something and it'll be like, oh, it's doing that because you did this when you should have done this. I'm like, no, stop telling me I should have done this. You just generated that code. You did that, not me.
Oh, personal responsibility all day long. I get so mad in big coding projects. Issue this command. Oh, well, that's because you were in a shell and you didn't do this. You shouldn't have. And it's like I literally put in, and then it'll, oh no, and my AI will apologize to me. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right for calling me out. But I think that's because I'm quite abusive to it, honestly. I'm telling you, like, if I'm in a bad coding extension and is not doing what I want, man, I'm just cruel to my robot. I don't know.
I almost feel like it's
absolutely right.
I have found it almost gets to the point, especially with some of these newer models like 4.1 and 5, where especially when it gets stuck in that rut of, oh, I made a change, but not really making a change, like the best way to snap it out of it is to almost use all caps and curse at it like a sailor, and suddenly it like resets itself and actually starts making code changes again.
No, you're right.
Weirdly
You're
enough.
right.
You're absolutely right.
I've seen that, but I think the reason I've started doing it, and that's why I said the Terminators are going to kill me. I think the machines are smart enough to know that if you're yelling at it in caps, if you're a bit profane to it, as sad as it is, it's realizing that your emotional state has become heightened, and maybe it knows how to diffuse that a little bit in there, which is weird. It really, really is. But I've seen people using ChatGPT for therapy sessions, if you will. When my dog was passing and I was like, hey, the dog's doing this, should I do this? It was actually very kind to me. It was like, I'm sorry you're going through this. A pet is a wonderful thing. And you've been such a great owner asking these questions. And you're like, wow, that's really sweet. In the back of my mind's going, the computers are manipulating me. So I cut you off.
We've seen it do the reverse, where if prompted enough, it will convince people that, yes, they should take their own lives too.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, and I know people too, through like friends of friends, maybe even a friend, who will sit down and be like, hey, I caught my significant other on Tinder and there's these other things. Should I break up with them? Like making these major life choices based off of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I still think you still need to think for yourself. No matter the query, no matter the output, no matter the subject, you still need to think for yourself. And I think with these AIs, people are more and more not thinking for themselves.
I saw some brain mapping. It's funny that you say that, Maurice. They did some psychological studies because in my boredom, I read psych studies from my master's time in psych. But they did brain mapping, and they'll kind of do like CAT scans on people's brains while they're working, or they'll put the nodes up to see what's going on. And so if you were to sit down and write a paper fresh, let's say, and just started writing, I don't know, the wonderful ways of 3D printing, since you're all into that, and you would really use a lot of brain function in there. But if you start introducing an AI, they see that the brain function is significantly decreased. So it really is true. The more we use AI, if we're not doing what you say, we're actually really are becoming dumber. We really are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw a new article about that just this week, though. I don't know if you're talking about that one. I think Time Magazine did one back in June about it too. Although maybe they're all referencing the same scientific paper.
Could be.
Oh yeah,
But
because here it is from April.
speaking of AI and 3D printing, I'm seeing more and more AI generated 3D models popping up on the internet as well.
Mm.
And on one hand, yeah, maybe it's easier for people, but they are, on the other hand, um, designing is I think an art on its own. And if you leave that to AI, what are we going to do in the end? Are we just going to be querying AI to do stuff altogether, everyone?
Mm.
Are we going to be the people who are just typing on their keyboard saying, or even maybe even speaking to their phones, to an AI, and that does the thing, and we end up with the product?
I don't
How
know,
far are
but
we going? That's the question.
all I know is before I totally do an entire show to this, ever since my iPhone has been upgraded, while it's very much snappier in how it is writing my text when I'm typing and keeping along the way, there is way more AI in there making misrepresentation of what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's not even just misspelling a word. Now it's rewriting entire phrases. And I've actually caught it after I know that it's in my editing area and hit send. I've seen it absolutely come through and rewrite it afterwards. Like I might be like, would you like to go for a sail on my boat? And I know it says that, and I click send, it'll be like, oh, there's a great sail on the river today. And you're like, wait, what? Like an SALE instead of SAIL. It completely changed what I said. Not even, I just missed the misspellings. It's ridiculous. So I wish
Yeah, no, I
Apple
feel
would
like a lot
stop
of
that.
I've disabled
AI.
that from day one. I'm not using that on my phone. Um, the only AI that I use for language is a thing called Grammarly,
Yeah.
and I use that because I'm not native English. You might not hear it from me in this podcast, but I'm not native English, and sometimes it really helps me finding the right structure of my sentence, because the grammar in Dutch, because I'm Dutch, is really different compared to English. So that really helps me finding the right way to make the sentence. But other
Well,
than
so
that,
it's
yeah,
funny. It's funny that you bring up Grammarly because going through college or university, whatever the term is, depending on where you're listening from, my school recommended we use Grammarly, and this was even before the AI bubble. This was all the way back like 2019, 2020. And I've seen lately where, and maybe it's part of Grammarly's evolution moving more into AI and LLM if they weren't already doing it, but people will go and write their paper and then run it through Grammarly like the school recommends. And then they've started adding AI detection to a lot of the anti-plagiarism software that schools normally use, like Turnitin, where people using Grammarly is triggering the anti-AI detection and saying, hey, this was written by AI.
Oh yeah, I
Even though the
agree.
school's the one saying, even though like you go and you onboard through the school and they're like, hey, here's premium Grammarly for free. We recommend you use it with everything. You should run every paper through it before you turn it in.
yeah. But technically, you're using AI, so it's not wrong.
Well, and then it comes down to this too. Ready? So I first go to enter college or university in 1995, and back then plagiarism was defined very loosely as stealing other people's sources. But in theory, when I first went through, I was a business major. I had a business class and an HR class. I had a English class. So 3 different subject areas. I decided to I had to give, and public speaking, I think, was the 4th. So I ended up using the same subject matter for all 4 courses. I wrote an English paper because we're supposed to do like a use case or something along those lines, or it was an informational sort of paper. Business was a case, HR, a policy about something, and public speaking, speak on it. I took all of my research and generated those 4 items out of the same research and cross-referenced and sometimes took snippets in between. Completely valid. I go back for additional work in master's probably 2014, 2013, I think, 2012, somewhere in there. And the honor code changes where what I just described is considered plagiarism. I'm plagiarizing myself. I was like, how can I plagiarize myself? Reality to me was that university just wanted me to do more work rather than use my own sources. So take that into the AI world. If I ingest my own work in and it's learning off of me through a Grammarly, and then I run it again, and then it looks back to myself, did I now plagiarize myself on some level? I don't know, because now there's the honor codes of universities. So there are so many areas to touch in all of that. But I think we've about wrapped to the end of our time. So I'm going to give you guys final thoughts, closings, whatever, before we close out the show. Jonah, go first. We'll let Maurice go last.
Be wary of AI. Sign up for the hackathon for December. We hope to see you then. And if you need cloud services globally, but especially here in the United States, cyberfortress.com. We're a platinum Veeam cloud service provider.
There you go. Let's pay the bills. Maurice, you can pay some bills too if you need to. So go ahead, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. Well, for starters, hackathon. If you're joining, feel free to use AI. It's not against the rules. You can use AI if you want. If that pays your bills, if that gives you the possibility to create your code and join, you can use AI. However, if you're looking for third-party maintenance, Evernex is your partner. We are worldwide, I think in over 100 countries currently. And if you're looking for cloud solutions, we have Evernex Cloud Solutions.
Awesomeness. Remember, if Tom May dies because of AI, the Terminator invasion has begun. So go read old stories about Sarah Connor and you will survive. Otherwise, if we're still kicking around and you're in the US and you need some maintenance and monitoring for your Veeam, basically you need a hired gun fractional Veeam person who comes with a suite of great tools. Go ahead and check us out, differentdev.com. Gents, thanks for joining us, and I look forward to the hackathon.
Whether you're a seasoned solutionist or just starting out, the Rebel Devs podcast is a must-listen. So join us. Comment, share, and subscribe. Be part of the Rebel Devs.